Have you ever heard of someone building what was basically a nation within a nation? Not with soldiers and weapons, but with strategy, faith, and a whole lot of money? Well, that person was real, and his story is pretty incredible.
Because yeah, that's exactly what went down in the 19th century. So the big question we're tackling in this explainer is a wild one. How did one man manage to create this massive Russian footprint, both spiritually and physically, smack in the middle of the Holy Land?
To figure that out, we've got to meet the architect himself, a guy who was, let's say, one part priest, one part diplomat, and one part master strategist.
His name was Archimandrite Antonin Kapustin. Now, Archimandrite is a really high rank for a priest in the Orthodox Church. As the head of the Russian mission in Jerusalem, you could basically think of him as a kind of spiritual general. And for nearly 40 years, he was the guy, the main engine behind this whole extraordinary project.
But here's the thing. This wasn't just about putting up a few new churches. Kapustin was on a mission, a strategic one, with a huge vision. So what was he really trying to do here?
He was building something that people started calling Russian Palestine. It was a whole network, a spiritual and a logistical one. The whole point was to plant a flag, to establish a powerful Russian Orthodox presence in what was a very, very competitive part of the world.
And his reasons went way beyond just simple faith. He wanted to beef up Russia's presence on the ground, absolutely. He had to support the thousands of Russian pilgrims who were coming in, and of course, he wanted to push back against the influence of other missions. But his real genius move? Buying up and preserving key holy sites. The guy used his diplomatic status, had serious funds coming in from powerful people in St. Petersburg, and he knew how to navigate the super complicated Ottoman legal system to get these properties for the Orthodox world. Honestly, in a game of influence, it felt like Kapustin was playing chess while everybody else was playing checkers.
So, with his strategy set, Kapustin just started building. And the sheer scale and speed of his acquisitions were, well, they were something else. Let's just take a look at what he actually managed to pull off. So first, he goes to Hebron, a place with immense biblical weight. And there, he actually manages to buy the site of the sacred oak of Mamre, a spot that's deeply important in the Old Testament. That was a huge win, both strategically and spiritually. Then you've got the iconic Mount of Olives. He acquires this prime chunk of land that would eventually become the site for the incredible Church of the Ascension. So again, you see the pattern. He wasn't just buying property, he was securing locations at the absolute heart of the Christian story.
And his vision wasn't only about these grand monuments. He was also super practical. In Jaffa, which was the main port where pilgrims arrived, he focused on logistics. He built hospices and monasteries just to care for thousands of exhausted Russian pilgrims. He was building a whole support system right from the ground up. Okay, so buying all this land and building all these places is one thing, but what's the lasting impact? Why should the work of a priest from the 1800s still matter to us today?
40 years. Think about that. For almost 4 decades, Antonin Kapustin was in charge of the Russian mission. This wasn't some quick assignment or a side hustle. It was his entire life's focus. And that kind of singular dedication is really the foundation of his entire legacy.
His legacy really has 3 parts. On the heritage side, he preserved priceless holy sites for the Russian Church. Politically, his work gave Russia a major foothold that definitely influenced its foreign policy in the region. And on the community level, he created this whole network that protected and sheltered Orthodox Christians. His work echoed through religion, politics, and society.
And let's not lose sight of the human element in all this. For tons of ordinary people, his work changed everything. He built a real, tangible system of safety and access, making it possible for thousands upon thousands of pilgrims to come and safely visit the holiest sites of their faith. Which brings us right to the end of his story. After a life filled with such huge projects and acquisitions, his final chapter might be the most telling one of all.
After a long, healthy life, Kapustin passed away in Jerusalem in 1894, and in this really beautiful, symbolic way, the very empire of faith that he had built with his own hands became his final sanctuary.
It was his own final request. He was buried on the Mount of Olives, on the very land he had bought, inside the church he had built. In the most literal way you can imagine, his life's work became his actual final home.
It's just such a powerful final thought, isn't it? A man so woven into his mission that his own tomb becomes its greatest monument.
It really leaves you wondering, how often does a person's life and their work become so completely intertwined that their final resting place is the most perfect summary of their entire existence?